had no feelings about this, running around like some hyperactive chipmunk. We don't get to see anyone eat. I don't know what the noun version of that word is. It doesn't work. They are not as low as Wish. Wish will always be at the bottom. I wanted him to stay dead. I am a sucker for small child characters. Yes! Reinforce those stakes. Hi guys, welcome back to another Nerd Rants video. I watched a movie that I was entirely expecting never to watch. I had no excitement, I had very low expectations. I refused to go see it in theaters. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Moana 2. For those who don't know, I've given up on Disney at this point, and it takes quite a bit for me to have any kind of incentive to go see a Disney movie. So yeah, so I didn't see this one in theaters. I didn't really expect much of it, because not only is it a Disney sequel, it is a modern Disney sequel, so it's, yeah. I went in with very low expectations. Like, I don't know what gave me the urge to watch this movie, but I just could not get the idea out of my head, so I decided to sate the random curiosity that had sparked and watch it. I'm not gonna lie, it was better than I was expecting it to be, which isn't saying much because I had very, very low expectations for this. Like, I don't even know. I had no feelings for this about this one way or another about this movie, as far as trailer and whatever pre-release stuff is concerned. I had seen one trailer maybe once, and it didn't pique my interest like some other movie trailers do, so I had no feelings about this before its release. I forgot it came out, and all I really heard about it after its release while scrolling the internets was it's not good, or the music is very, by comparison to the first one, is not great. It's very forgettable. So those are the two things I heard about this movie. So that didn't help my expectations, and definitely put the nail in the coffin for me seeing it in theaters. And I stand by that. I didn't need to see this in theaters, but it was definitely better than I expected. But again, that's not putting the bar very high because I didn't have great expectations for this movie. To sum up in basically one sentence and not give any like spoilers for the movie, the plot had potential, but the execution, the characters, and the songs were very meh. And so this interesting plot idea got lost in all of the mediocre other things that drive the story. Yeah, they had one main component of the story that was, in my opinion, honestly a strong concept. And then they brought in these different characters, and they were fairly two-dimensional. Like, we didn't get to know anything about these characters besides the first impression you get. So the one lady builds canoes, and we get this frazzled, crazy, always improving, nothing is ever perfect, and just running around like some hyperactive chipmunk. And that is her entire character for the entire movie, and that's all we get. We don't get to know anything deeper with her. One of them makes stories. He learns the stories of the village. He is an artist, so he kind of paints the pictorial stories that they have, and he is a huge Maui fan, and that is all we get of his character for the entirety of the movie. And the other one is an old farmer who they bring along to help grow plants so they don't have to eat fish for the entirety of their trip. That's literally what they say his job is. I don't see him do his job at all in this movie, except for maybe one scene right at the beginning when they're trying to, you know, figure out how to be a crew. And he's sitting underneath and refusing to come out because he can't swim. So he's refusing to come out from below deck, and he's sitting with his plants. And that is the most I get to see of him doing his job. We don't get to see anyone eat in this movie. We don't get to see anyone eat in either of the Moana movies, but this one specifically, especially when they just choose to highlight it, that's why I noticed. In the first one, I'm like, oh yeah, they don't eat, but whatever, because no one shines a light on it. It's not this relevant detail that's brought up on any occasion. She just exists and you're in the story. And in this one, they shine a light on eating and their need for food besides fish, because it's going to be this long journey. And then the farmer, whose job is to give them food that isn't fish, we don't see him do his job, and we don't even get to see them eat after this little highlight that they put on eating. So they really just drew attention to that, and it's not a huge thing, but then like, you drew attention to this and then did nothing with this little with this guy's role, and you tried to make him comedic relief, and it was not good. So his character was literally just the crotchety old man character, and he didn't even get much of the farmer side of it because he didn't do anything farmery at all in the movie. We see him in a field at the beginning of the movie, and that's the most farmer stuff we get out of him for the rest of it. So yeah, the new characters they introduced were very, very bland and very two-dimensional. And so that was, if you've watched any of my other videos, I go on rants about characters. My last Nerd Rants video was about Poldark, and that was just ranting about characters. And characters are so integral to the story. If without good characters, the story fails. So it's, yeah. So they didn't have good, solid characters, and so their story failed, in my eyes. Even the demigoddess that they introduced, honestly, in all honesty, I love the scenes leading up to her introduction when it's just her and Maui, and it being intimidating. We don't get to see her face for that whole sequence. That stuff is good, and I think it's well done with the ominousness. I don't know what the noun version of that word is, but they make her thoroughly ominous. And so I enjoy those scenes with her before her official introduction to Moana. And then afterwards, they play her as a sympathetic antagonist, where she's doing this thing that she doesn't actually want to do, and so I'm trapped, to let me help you, and I'm like, okay, fine, I guess. But then the entirety of her doing that and it's helping is just this song that it's not good. I don't think it's good. It is, because obviously this is Lin-Manuel Miranda doing the music, and after the success of Hamilton, I think he leans too far into the aspects of Hamilton in all of his music. And so he'll have the super fast parts that don't even necessarily fit into what he's trying to do with the movie or the song or whatever. And so that's really disappointing. And so he's trying to replicate his success with Hamilton with the music that he is now continuing to do after the fact. And it shows, and it makes them, and everybody suffers from it, because he can be a great writer. Like, he can do some great music, but he's leaning so far into, I need to replicate this because this did so well and this is what people like, that he's neglecting some of the things that are more important to what he's trying to do with this music. and it's unfortunate. Disney pulled this with Wish. I talked about this in my hour-long rant about Wish, how some of the songs they started and I couldn't differentiate them from the Encanto songs, and it felt like they were just trying to replicate their success with Encanto. So it doesn't work. It's not, you can't, it's its own unique story, so you need to give the music its own unique feel, and you can't just copy something that you have already done that you know works, and use that in this different story that has a different feel to it. So that's, in my opinion, why a lot of his music, like for this and like Mufasa, I think it was, is the other one that came out in the last year, why those two seem to, like, the music just seems to fail because he's trying to replicate Hamilton, and they're not Hamilton, so don't replicate Hamilton music. Anyway, yeah, so I don't even remember her name. Demi Goddess Lady gets a not great song. I'll readily admit, I don't like Shiny in the first movie. It's supposed to be like the villain song, even though he's not the main villain, and I personally don't like it. It's not an awful song, especially when we're comparing to the second movie, but it's not great. I personally do not enjoy the song Shiny. It's like I don't know. I just don't like it. The mood doesn't fit, especially for a villain song. I went on a rant about the villain song in Wish as well. But it's a similar thing where it's like you're trying to kind of play it off as a villain song, but it's super upbeat and it doesn't work, in my opinion. So I don't personally like Shiny, and this kind of gave a similar vibe where we're portraying her, especially initially before we officially introduce her, as this antagonist. And you give her this super upbeat and lyrically meh song, and throw that in, and then it's kind of the antagonist song for the movie, and it's, I don't like it. So yeah, that was probably not my least favorite song from the movie, but it was low. It was low. They're all pretty close as far as how I feel about the songs. They are not as low as Wish. Wish will always be at the bottom, and I think, but they're not too much higher. Yeah, so that was unfortunate. They kind of, like, there was a promising start to her character before she gets officially introduced, and then it kind of just, and I didn't like it. Her character definitely, of the new characters, has the most depth, so that's a plus, but it's still not much. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, characters weren't great. Execution, Disney's leaning into the comedic relief characters, I think, and not necessarily doing it well. Like, they're leaning into the Olaf comedic relief characters. No offense to the Olaf lovers out there, I don't like him, and it's ugh. And I don't like that Josh Gad is everywhere now, especially in Disney. Anyway, yeah, I hate Olaf. I really do. He died in the second movie for a little while. I wanted him to stay dead. The only reason there was any kind of emotion that went behind his death was because it meant Elsa was dead. Yeah. I wanted him to stay dead. Anyway, Disney's leaning hardcore into that because little kids love Olaf, and which is, they're little kids, it's fine. But they leaned so hard into it that I, as an adult who does not necessarily like Olaf, can no longer enjoy this movie because there's 2 to 4 of these characters that are meant to play on that kind of humor. And it's, the chicken is still there. Whatever. He doesn't show up very much, which is a plus. The chicken was a plot device in the first one. It was fine. And then Pua, the pig, comes along, also does nothing. Like, the animals didn't serve any purpose, and they were barely on screen. The only reason Hey Hey serves a purpose is because he pops up and because Moana gets separated from everybody else, and then they find Maui, and he's, gets free, and then he sees the chicken and realizes Moana's here, Moana's in danger. And that's the only really real purpose that the chicken serves. And then the pig serves no purpose, and they're just there. They're there to make bacon and eggs jokes throughout the rest of the movie for Maui. So that's the only purpose they serve, and it's not even plot related, so they didn't have to be there. So we have both of them. We also have Maui, which, fine, he could be a comedic relief character. He was a little bit of that in the first movie, so that was great. He could still be a comedic relief character. His jokes were, yeah. And then they added the old man as well, who was supposed to be comedic relief. And so there was just too much happening with the comedic relief characters, and Disney leans so hard to the Olaf style of comedic relief characters that I no longer am able to enjoy some of the scenes that are going on, because there's so many of them, and they always have to crack a bad joke at the worst times, and it's just whatever. So there's too much comedic relief happening in a lot of Disney movies nowadays, and movies in general. I feel like, I don't know. Well, it's mostly Disney. Disney's, yeah. Anyway, that music. We'll do a little rant about the music, and then we'll talk about the few things I enjoyed from this movie. So, the music, very meh. Forgettable. Yep, definitely forgettable. I can't think of the melody of pretty much any song in that entire movie, except the chorus. I don't know if it counts as the chorus. No, yes, the whole chorus of Go Beyond. That is the only song that I can remember the melody of. I watched this movie on Wednesday, literally yesterday. I watched this movie yesterday, and I cannot remember, I could not hum you the melody of any of those songs except Go Beyond. So it's Go Beyond. Get Lost, I think, is Demi-Goddess Lady's song. We're Back is the opening song. I think, What Could Be Better Than This? I think that's the lyrics. But that's their Come Together as a group, as a team song. It's probably one of my least favorites. Chihu? I don't know what Maui's song is called in this one, but I don't like it. I kind of hate it. That one's the bottom. And then What Could Be Better Than This is down there as well. And then the Get Lost is also down there. We're Back is also down there. Like, most of the songs are like down on the same level. Go Beyond is slightly higher. I think it's the best song in the movie, partially because I actually remember it. Like, it was good enough to stick in my memory, at least partially. And it has some interesting, cool things lyrically and scene-wise, and so I enjoyed Go Beyond probably the most of the entire soundtrack. In all honesty, it's still kind of minimally, like, it's not on my playlist or anything, but it was still, of all of the songs, the most enjoyable. So, yeah. Music was very forgettable, very meh, and that's sad when we compare it to the first one, which had some bangers in it. Okay, we're gonna talk about some of the few things that I enjoyed from this movie, or I liked, or saw potential in. The plot of my goodness. But the plot of Moana going on a quest to find other people. It's like, we're voyagers. There have to be more people out there. There have to be more islands. And so going out and seeking other people, that's a cool concept. And having this communal, this island where they are basically all communed. And it seems like it provided currents to help bring people together. I'm like, cool, I can get behind that. That's not the weirdest thing Disney's ever done that's like worked. So like, I can get behind that. Cool. Quest to like find this island that is in, for all intents and purposes, a symbol of unity between the peoples, the different peoples of the ocean. So that was pretty good. I thought the concept of the trailer was, not the trailer, the concept of the plot was good and interesting and could have become an interesting story. So that was good. I will admit, I watched the first trailer and I saw the one scene of the little girl screaming, "Big sis!" And I was like, oh, she has a sister. I don't know how to feel about that. But their dynamic ended up being like the best in the movie. I am a sucker for small child characters. They're so sweet. As long as they're not made to be super annoying, like, yeah. They're almost always the best. Like small little baby child character, their sweet little child voice. Oh, kids' voices are what get me every single time. Like someone asked me my favorite part about working with children. It's their little voices. I love their little voices so much. So yeah, that was adorable, and their dynamic is so cute. It's so cute, and having like when the ocean's sending them messages back and sending messages between them back and forth. And I can't remember her sister's name. It starts with an S. They don't say it very often. When she sends a splash back to her sister, oh, it's so cute. Their dynamic is adorable. Also, I honestly did enjoy the dynamic between Maui and Moana, at times at least. It had its moments. Because Maui's character is like very over the top, and they do I think too much comedy with it because he was more of the comedic relief character in the first one, and they leaned a little too hard into that at times, I think. But him and Moana's dynamic definitely had its moments. Like the moment he sees Hey and realizes Moana's here. Moana's in danger. This is the one place I didn't want her to be. She could die. And having that realization and him immediately going, where is she? I need to find her. I need to protect her. And then he enters the stage and he's super, yeah. And I'm just like, oh, cool. There goes that moment. And then when he's trying to cheer her up after the other thing that with the shark head, no, that was too much. But like just so many different moments, just little moments, like from his facial expression to how he talks to her. There are just several different moments throughout the movie where I'm just like, I love that dynamic. Just carry that through the entire movie, and it just shows the depth of their friendship, and how much Maui values what she did for him in the first movie. It's the moments we get of that are wonderful, and I do love that. I also love the stakes. I loved the stakes in this movie. I know the stakes in the first movie were really high too. Like islands were literally dying, disintegrating into ash, basically. In this one, also, slightly different stakes. It's more of a slow, painful, we just die out because we're alone, but the end result is still the same. It's like, if you do not find this island, your people will die out because you're alone. And it's gonna end. Eventually this is gonna end. There's gonna be nothing left because eventually there's no one to carry this on. And so, yeah, those are like the overarching stakes, but that's the stakes to the characters in general. Just obviously, hey, lava monster, it could kill you, sure. Yeah, that's stakes, but they're not as prevalent as in this movie. Because in this movie, over half the main characters are, like 4 of the 5 main characters are humans. They can just die. In this one of the characters literally falls off the boat while being attacked by magical divine eels. I don't know what to call them. They're getting attacked by eel monsters. He falls off the boat and almost gets eaten. Given how his character is, I wouldn't have minded. I would have been like, yes! reinforce those stakes, make it very apparent that people can and will die in this universe. But no, he didn't die. It's a Disney movie. They're not gonna kill him, especially like that. So yeah, the stakes were good. The characters made me want them to reinforce and prove their stakes were legitimate. But it's fine. It's a Disney movie. They won't kill anyone. I did think they would. For a second, I thought they would. Another great scene that unfortunately has a negative connotation because Disney movie and everything needs to be happy ending. Maui's sacrifice at the end when they're trying to reach the island, and Maui is trying to hold it from the bottom of the ocean. And you're getting attacked by, I can't remember this evil god's name. But anyway, the guy who sunk and cursed the island. Excuse me. He has created this monstrous, divine, magical storm to protect people. Keep people from breaking this curse. So Maui's in the heart of the storm, struggling to pull this island from the bottom of the ocean, and the Nalo, something like that, starts striking him with lightning, which you're like, oh, demigod, he'll be fine, he survived a lava monster. And then, because it's a god, his tattoos start disappearing. So he starts becoming human again. And for a second, I thought that they let the lightning vaporize Maui. I legit for a second thought they had just vaporized Maui. And I was like, did they just kill someone in a Disney movie? No, he fell out of the sky, he was unconscious. He was human. They did make him human, but they didn't kill him. And I was like, okay, fine. But still, consequences to his sacrifice. He is human now. Then Moana dives and being a human, touches the island, breaks the curse right before getting struck by lightning and killed. So I guess they did sort of kill someone in this movie, but she doesn't stay dead, so I don't count it. So then Maui dives after her, and we have a nice little, cool little scene of him being like, no, you can't leave me, you can't die, not after everything we've been through. And then the gods bring her back and give her the power by making her a demigoddess. Which, whatever, I mean, she was borderline a demigoddess anyway, because she was friends with the ocean and had some control over it. Now I think she just does have control over the ocean, or some form of water. But yeah, so now it's just like official. Hey, you do have magic now. You do control the ocean. You're a demigoddess. So now she's a demigoddess. But the part that irks me is they restore Maui's demigod powers. Which, it's a Disney movie. Happy ending, yay. Kids movie, yippee. Everybody's fine. I get that that's the format of kids movies. It doesn't, nowadays at least, it wasn't always that way. But anyway, they negate the consequences of Maui's decision. In the first one, yes, he sacrifices his hook, but he doesn't become human. So when Te Fiti gives him his hook back, she's kind of just restoring him back to his full power, and says, hey, you're not really a douche anymore. Here, you are still a demigod. Let me give you your hook, give you this magical artifact, this magical hook back, so that you can be at full strength, so that you can go out and do good again. So it made some sense in that one to me. And then in this one, he sacrifices his status as a demigod in order to save Moana and her friends. They're her friends, but like, are they really? Anyway, sacrifices his powers as a demigod, his status as a demigod, and is now fully human. And then, so it's this amazing sacrifice, and he is the only reason that they were able to hold off this storm long enough for Moana to get to that island. And so, beautiful sacrifice. I loved the sacrifice. That was incredible. But You had to go negate it and give him his hook back, give him his demigod powers back, and just have no consequences to his choices. And I don't want him to have like negative consequences because, I don't know. I thought it took away from the sacrifice. It's like he did this beautiful sacrifice in order for them to save the world. And you just take away that. You take away from that sacrifice by just handing him all his power back and just being like, here, let's pretend it's like it never happened. No. It was a wonderful scene and it should have stuck. I almost would have preferred it if they had basically taken Maui's demigod power, not necessarily the same ability, but like taken the demigod status of Maui that was stripped from him and given it to Moana so that she could live, and Maui stays a human and then has to adjust to human life and has to go to like Motunui and become one with those people, and like that would have been cool to have him then have to adjust to being human, and in a way through his sacrifice of like letting Analo or whatever strip him of his status, and then in a sense giving Moana his demigod power so that she can live. That would have been cool if they basically traded, indirectly, but like basically traded, and so then she became a demigod, which saved her life, and he then has to adjust to being a human, and he then lives with the consequences of his choice to sacrifice that, to stay there and sacrifice that status and that power for Moana. That I think would have been a way more beautiful ending to let that sacrifice stand, versus how we got it in the actual movie, where they just negated the sacrifice altogether. But yeah, I don't know. This movie it exists. There are aspects I like. There are many aspects that I don't. Lin-Manuel Miranda. No idea if you're listening to this or not. You probably aren't. Why would you? I only have 500 subscribers. Stop trying to copy the success you had with Hamilton, because the stories that you are working on now are not Hamilton. There are very few stories that work with this particular style of music that you are trying to create in every single story that you are doing now. And so at least half the projects that you are working on, Mufasa, Moana 2, I don't know what else you've worked on. I know there's several. They do not fit the same genre that you then try to create. And copying that doesn't necessarily lead to success. It just leads to carbon copy. This is now boring. This is getting old. Same old, same old. We've seen this before. And in a lot of cases, because of the story that you're trying to tell, this doesn't fit. And therefore, the music does not work. So yeah, people in the music industry, just because some things succeeded really, really well, partially because of the music, doesn't mean that style of music is going to work in every other story and project that you work on. So create things that are unique to the story that you have, because that is what will make it stand out, and that is what will make it succeed, is within everything works together and everything interconnects and works. And yeah, I don't know. I've got beef with Disney. It's fine. I may never watch another Disney movie in theaters again, but it's all right. It's fine. So yeah, my thoughts on this movie are, there was potential, but they failed in the execution. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Drop yours in the comments. I'll see you all next time.